Welcome, everyone. We're just going to give everybody a minute or two to trickle on in as we wait for some bandwidth and whatnot. We're so excited for you to be here with us. We'll just hang on tight for a quick minute, make sure that everybody can get in. All right, let's see. It looks like a lot of us have trickled in already, so we're going to go ahead and kick this off. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's session. We're so excited to be here. This is Product Discovery from Customer Conversations to Confident Decisions. We're so glad to have you with us. I'm Nikki, the Director of Marketing Strategy here at Pragmatic Institute, and I will be your MC for today. Before we dive in, let's just walk through a quick run of show here for us. So you know how to get the most out of today's event. You can use the chat box at any time to connect with fellow attendees. We love to hear from you throughout the whole session. If you're chatting, make sure to select panelists and attendees so everyone can see your comments and contributions. If you have a question for our experts, be sure to drop it in the Q&A box. We will do our best to get to as many questions as we can at the end of the session. And don't worry, yes, we will be sending a recording of today's session to your inbox in the next few days so you can revisit or share with your team. Before we dive in, I just want to take a quick moment to introduce who we are. At Pragmatic Institute, we've been empowering product teams for over 30 years. Our mission is to help you move from reactive to strategic by deeply understanding your market, aligning your teams, and building products that people truly want. We offer hands-on training, practical tools, and proven frameworks that have helped thousands of companies align teams, uncover deeper insights, and deliver products that win in the market. In fact, our approach is used by more than half of the Fortune 50 and by over 200,000 professionals globally. Today, you're going to get a taste of how we do that, starting with a practical walkthrough of product discovery led by one of our world-class instructors, Will Scott. Will brings decades of experience in product leadership and has helped countless teams level up their discovery skills. Then we'll hear from James Harris, Senior Product Manager at AHA, who will show you how their powerful discovery tool can make every part of this process more efficient, from capturing customer feedback to connecting it directly to your roadmap. We've got a lot of value packed into this hour, so we're going to go ahead and kick this off. James, could you introduce yourself and AHA before we begin?
Sure thing. Hi, everybody. My name is James Harris. I'm a senior product manager with AHA. I've been with the company for about 5 years now, and it's a great pleasure to be with all of you today. Super excited to dive into one of our newer offerings, AHA Discovery. A little bit of background on AHA before I hand it back to Will, if you wouldn't mind going to the next page, Nikki. So here at AHA, we have a very clear vision, which is that we aspire for a world of lovable software built by thriving product development teams. And we are proud to help over 1 million product builders do exactly that. Over the last 5 years since I joined, it's been amazing to see that number grow. Next page, please, Nikki. And we focus on helping product teams really move seamlessly from discovery to delivery, all within a unified environment. So ultimately, the value of our software provides, is helping you, product owners, product managers, navigate all the steps in the product development lifecycle extremely efficiently and extremely well, so you can deliver more value and faster. For context, we provide 7 tools: AHA Roadmaps, AHA Discovery, which again, I'm super excited to dive into with you today, Ideas, Whiteboards, Knowledge, Teamwork, and Develop. And each tool that we bring to market is purpose-built for product teams, giving you everything you need to do your best work. So now Will's going to share more about the importance of product discovery. So I'll hand it to him. And after that, I will show you, again, one of our newer offerings, AHA Discovery, the product. So over to you, Will.
Thanks very much, James. Thanks very much. So my name is Will Scott. I'm one of the instructors here at the Pragmatic Institute. One of the things that's special about the Pragmatic Institute is our instructors. This is our full-time career. This is our craft. We're not just ducking out of a day job to do this as a part-time gig. This is what we do. But to become an instructor here, you have to have quite a lot of tenure. So quick potted history of my background. I spent 30 years in both product marketing and product management roles, big companies, small companies, startups. hardware, software, services, and SaaS, ultimately ending up in CMO and CPO roles as well. I ran my own shop for a while and also as a partner in a product-minded agency. Now, throughout all that time, since I took my very first Pragmatic certification, which was well over 20 years ago now, I've used the techniques, disciplines, and tenets that we learn in Pragmatic to add value to the organizations that we work for and with. So it's my very great pleasure to be here today. So as a prefix, we're in the business as product managers of being the messenger of the market. Our job is to understand what it is the market wants. Now, this quote here from Eric Ries, the author of the great book, The Lean Startup, always resonates. He says the biggest waste of all in product development is building something that absolutely no one wants. Now, folks, I promise you, no one wakes up in the morning and says, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to build a product that no one wants. But it happens a lot. It happens an awful lot. And it happens when we start inside the organization, listening to one another instead of listening to the marketplace, sitting around that conference table in that windowless conference room, convincing one another to build a product or build a feature. How many times have you heard the phrase, wouldn't it be great if we built or who wouldn't want and then we charge ahead without grounding that in what the market actually wants. You know, many times products are built because they can be built and not because they should be built. Next slide, Nikki. So for all of those Pragmatic alumni that are out there, this is our Pragmatic framework. 37 activities, a proven blueprint for creating and building products people want to buy, use, and tell all their friends around. Strategic activities over the left and execution activities over to the right. Now, this tool is very powerful and we can use it for lots of things. But you know what's interesting as I reflect on my career before Pragmatic, working with and for companies all over the world, is many times the symptoms of problems with a product manifest themselves down in that bottom right-hand corner and that go-to-market corner. You know, our leads aren't very good, or our content's no good, or our value proposition is not resonating. But more often than not, the root cause of all of that lies right up in that top left-hand corner, if you'd like to advance the slide. Market problems. We have to ground ourselves in market problems. By understanding those market problems, we get all the color and the context that we need to be successful as we traverse this framework from left to right. Now, you might say to yourself, well, why we bother with market problems? Why not just take feature requests, right? Why not just take all those inbound feature requests? Well, if you go to the next slide here, probably best said by Henry Ford, if I asked people what they would have wanted, they'd have said faster horses. And there's a problem, because the market doesn't always know what they want. They know what problems they have, but if we just start talking about what you want, we might have ended up building faster horses. Instead, what Henry Ford did is he managed to separate the desired outcome, which was faster, from the perceived implementation, which was horses. And as product managers, when we go out and spend time interviewing and talking to the marketplace, we need to have the discipline of being able to separate those two things. Absolutely. Those people had in their mind the idea of a faster horse, but they probably didn't understand internal combustion engines or what motor cars could do as well. Next slide, please. This is one of my favorite Pragmatic rules. Your opinion, although interesting, is irrelevant. Now, it's a little bit bold. I'm not recommending you'd say this as bluntly as this. I certainly don't suggest you say this to your CEO, because you may not get to say it more than once. But it really is the heart of everything we teach. We need to ground ourselves in facts, in data, rather than opinion. In fact, we used to have a mug that not that I'm trying to sell mugs here, but we used to have a mug that had this quote on it. And I remember throughout my time as a practitioner, I'd send my product managers to Pragmatic, and they come back proudly with this mug, and they'd march around with this quote. Oh, you have that mug, Jam? Great. You want? They'd march around with this mug with this quote on the outside, very proudly. Your opinion, although interesting, is irrelevant. Especially when it came to the end of quarter sales meeting, they'd very carefully place that mug on the table and twist it to make sure everyone could see this quote, which was great fun. But every now and again, I'd need to remind them, and frankly myself, to turn that mug around and have that quote faces to us, because we don't make decisions based on opinion, either ours or anyone else's. And so what we've got to do, you go to the next slide, is we need to expand our discovery lens, our discovery universe beyond those people internally. I'm sure when you see this, this will be familiar to many of you. How about your noisiest customer? Not necessarily your biggest, but your noisiest customer, that customer that's always emailing you, demanding new features, chasing you down at trade shows, says, I want, I want, I want. Or how about that squeakiest salesperson? I've got this big deal. It's going to close by the end of the quarter. It's going to make my number. Oh, and by the way, the only thing the customer needs is that blue button. Don't worry what the blue button does, right? It's my MacGuffin. It does something, right? And by the way, the whole market needs that blue button as well. But we don't have time to validate that. Just go ahead and build the button. So we charge ahead and we do it. And maybe we land that one deal. And then we go out to the market afterwards to discover who else needs the blue button. And do you know what we find out? Many times, no one else needs it, because we're responding to feature requests rather than intimately understanding our customers and the market. Next slide. And one of the easiest things for us to do is just to sit back and take those phone calls from our noisiest customers and our noisiest salespeople, jot down what their feature requests are, and then charge ahead and develop those features. We end up then becoming a feature factory. And now we think we're doing our job, but actually, to be the messenger of the market, we need to do more than just listen to the noisy 20%, those loud customers, those loud salespeople. We certainly need to speak to our customers. We also need to speak to our competitors' customers. We need to speak to our evaluators. Now, evaluators, they're people who are currently actively seeking a solution for a problem. And we also need to speak to our potentials as well. That's people who we believe have the problem, but for some reason aren't shopping. And it's only by casting our net wide and talking to all of these different constituents in the marketplace do we get that balanced and complete view of what the market problems actually are, rather than responding to those one-off feature requests. So how do we do all this? Next slide. Well, right now, AI is not going to replace us, because what we need to do is we need to speak to actual people who actually experience problems. And so we've got to get out from behind our desks, away from those internal meetings, and meet the market. And we go and interview those people in the marketplace. We have to realize this is a set of skills. First of all, we have to begin by asking open-ended questions. We start asking close-ended questions. We're not going to reveal all the things that could be, and also our own biases may be slipping as well. Yeah, Kat says, good old Nahito, right? Nothing important happens in the office. We've got to get out. Now, we talk a lot about this in our foundations course, but a couple of top tips I just want to pull out here. 2 eyes, 2 ears, 1 mouth. It's very easy for us to listen to the customer, just waiting for them to finish so we can make our point. That's not what we should be doing. We are like a sponge. We should be absorbing all our input. And we should exercise our human skills. Wait for that moment of pause, hesitation, when they're struggling to find a word, when they're getting excited about something, when they're shaking their head in disappointment. All of those are clues for us to press further, to investigate further. Now, when we go out and do these, what we call discovery calls, this is qualitative research. This is where we're actually speaking to people in the marketplace. And it's very easy for us to get pulled into conversations about new features coming out or how to solve a particular problem. What I'd really like you to do is avoid doing that. Because the moment we get dragged down that line, we start painting ourselves as though we're in a sales mode. I don't know whether anyone's ever bought something before, like a used car. The moment you feel you're being sold to, your narrative completely changes. Your choice of words completely changes. The caution you use and what you say completely changes. And so if you get pulled down that path into when's this next feature coming out, or can you help me solve this problem, try and put that to another time. Thirdly, they're talking about your product, your baby, something you might spend a lot of time every single week worrying about and thinking about, something that perhaps you're very proud of. Now we're in discovery mode to learn new things. And they may say negative things about our baby. And it's very, very easy for us to get defensive. But no, we've got to accept it with a smile. This is our opportunity to improve. This fourth one here, I just want to linger here for a moment. It's what matters is what people perceive. Now, let's say I was talking to James, right? And he was one of my potential customers, and he might say something about my product that's completely wrong. And I could have a knockdown argument with James and explain to him why it's exactly wrong, why he didn't read page 74 of the manual. That's not good, because we'll probably end up in quite a confrontational situation. And at best, maybe I solved that one instance of a misunderstanding with James, but there's a whole other market out there. So much better than dwelling on countering someone's misconception of your product, a much better thing to do is to understand, for example, how did James come to that conclusion? Because if I can fix that, then I'm systemically fixing perceptions in the marketplace rather than just fixing one by one. And finally, beware for confirmational bias. You know, confirmational bias, this is our inbuilt protection mechanism, sometimes very subconscious. This is where we hear things that we want to be true and we discard things that we don't want to be true. It happens all the time. Many times we can find ourselves unchecked, leading the witness in a discovery conversation. I might be leading James down to a conclusion that I want to be true rather than what is actually the root cause of the problem. So those are a few top tips to think about. Next slide. That's going to be our key phrase. That's interesting. Tell me more. Now, carry on. In the end, we're going to end up with, hopefully, a lot of great notes and interview outputs. Now what we want to do is we're going to consolidate those all together. We're going to look at those all together and we're going to pick out common themes, common trends, common patterns. Because truly in product management, generally our goal is not to solve for the corner cases, but to solve for the mainstream. And so we need to have the ability to be able to take a whole bunch of these different transcripts of interviews, synthesize them, and surface those things that are truly important, and then we should act upon. Next slide, please. This goes back to the Nahito comment. The answers to almost all of your questions, other than where the coffee is not in the building. We've got to get out. And it's made so much easier these days, post-COVID. We can do so much across Zoom and things like that and have really quality conversations. You know, when I was coming up as a young product manager, I'd get on the plane and I'd go and fly to Boston and spend 3 days there meeting a dozen customers. Exhausting. Now we can do that in a morning. Final slide. Why does this matter now? Well, it wouldn't be 2025, folks, if I didn't mention those two letters AI at least once. Have a look at how AI is empowering the build side of the equation. I'm sure you've all seen these vibe coding tools or tools out there where you can put in a picture and it'll cut code. The barrier to entry for creating applications when it comes to building them is going to go dramatically down. It's going to become dramatically cheaper and it's become dramatically faster. Now, what that does is great, but what it also does is it puts so much more emphasis on product managers to identify those high value, high quality problems to solve instead of jumping straight to building an app that absolutely no one wants. So with that, I'm going to hand over to my friend James. James, if you'd like to pick up from here. Over to you.
Thank you, Will. Appreciate it. That was excellent. Thank you. A couple of things stuck out for me there. I loved your commentary around expanding the discovery lens to include not just customers, but potentials and evaluators. And the way that you phrase that, you know, come and meet the market. And my hope is that as I move through the demonstration of one of our newer offerings, AHA Discovery, you'll appreciate how this tool can help your team come and meet the market, but not just meet the market. Take a step beyond that and actually pull down customer feedback, consolidate that feedback in a structured way, pick out the common patterns that Will was harping on, and connect that back to the product roadmap and the product decisions that your team is making. And so AHA Discovery, before I jump in, you know, I think solves a real pain point that we felt ourselves. The reality is, managing interviews and pinning down research participants and ultimately, as I mentioned, linking insights and findings back to the product roadmap is really, really difficult. And so the teams, it's so important that teams place an emphasis on building out this capability. As Will mentioned, with the emergence of AI, getting clarity on what to build by talking directly to customers is so important. Today, it's a competitive advantage, but I would argue over time that that's going to be a table stakes capability of any product team that wants to be great. And so really excited to dive into the tool today. You can use AHA Discovery as a standalone tool, as I mentioned, to centralize customer interviews, analyze transcripts with AI. But it becomes even more powerful when you use it alongside AHA roadmaps, because as I'm going to show you, you can link your learnings from interviews directly to the roadmap. We launched last week of March. Early feedback has been tremendous. Teams are really, really excited to finally organize customer conversations and ensure they're actually influencing the roadmap. So I'm thrilled to show you the product today and how it works. Let's jump in. So welcome to AHA Discovery. For those of you out there that are existing AHA users, some of the elements of the UI here may look familiar to you, including but not limited to the workspace dropdown, which I think does a phenomenal job of empowering teams at the company level, the business unit level, and the individual product level to just get alignment around the work that is important to the team. Fredwin Software is the fictitious company that I'm going to use to drive the demonstration today. This company brings to market cycling solutions and applications that are appeal to cycling enthusiasts. I'm going to walk through the Fredwin cycling product. You can think of this as a Strava competitor, fitness tracking application for cycling enthusiasts. I'm going to walk through AHA Discovery at two levels. First, the top level up here, show you a couple of the screens that are relevant to the workspace and the account before diving into an individual research study and then an interview to show you really the power that AHA Discovery brings to bear from an analytics standpoint. So here we have the study overview screen. You can see, I should say, there are really two core data records within AHA Discovery. One is a study. You can see a list of studies here. And you can think of a research study as a collaborative research effort that is geared towards proving or disproving a set of hypotheses that you and the team have. And you can also think of studies as containers of interviews that you're going out to engage with customers, potentials, evaluators to prove again or disprove the hypotheses that you have. Interviews is the second core data record, and interviews do not need to be part of a study. Maybe you want to run some more micro level analysis to inform some product decisions in the near term. Maybe I've got 3 releases with 20 features in each over the next couple of months. How on earth do I prioritize this work? Let's go and have a couple of conversations. So individual interviews can still take advantage of all the capabilities that I'm going to show you today. I'm going to come over to the calendar. The calendar is really the team's visual view of all the research activity that is planned or in flight. So I can see these lines on my research studies with a start and end date. I can click to open a drawer and view some meta information about that study in question. And I can also track in the calendar individual interviews that have been scheduled as part of a research study or individually as well. And again, open the drawer to view some information about that interview. I'm going to come over to participants. This is one of my favorite screens in AHA Discovery, even though it's probably one of the more boring. It's very, very powerful. We found ourselves, and when we went to market before we launched the tool, oftentimes product management teams, UX teams, research teams don't have a dedicated CRM or a repository of contacts that are relevant to or a good fit for research that they potentially need to undertake at some time and over time. And so this screen is designed to be exactly that. This is a repository that teams can come in and build out and track over time. You can create contacts in a couple of different ways. One is manually just creating a contact. You can import contacts in bulk via CSV, like so. And then if you're an existing AHA Ideas portal user and folks are engaging with your Ideas portal, maybe creating ideas or voting on ideas in the portal, you can automatically pull them in that way as well. And we're really excited in just a couple of weeks to launch our integration with Salesforce, which is going to allow members, again, of product research and UX to pull in contacts via the Salesforce integration. That integration will be bi-directional, so account management teams can track who's reaching out to who to make sure that we're not inundating the same folks over and over again and really causing fatigue. Um, Really simple from this global view of contacts to add them to an individual study. Of course, not all contacts are going to be relevant to every piece of research that you and the team are undertaking. So you can easily add them into a research study from here. Let's jump into an individual study and get closer to the real magic of AHA discovery. So I'm going to come into the GPS activity tracking study, and you can see a simple study overview screen here. This is where the team and I can come in and define really the purpose of the study in the form of a summary. I have summary goals here, maybe some assumptions that we're leading into the research with that we want to prove or disprove, and then a nice view of the interview pipeline. So completed interviews as well as interviews that are upcoming. And lastly, it's super easy to add researchers or member of your team that you're going to collaborate with in the research at hand. You may be wondering, how do I get interviews scheduled? Well, we support that via the schedule screen here. You're going to be able to fully customize an external scheduling URL. You can see branding, some information about the study. You can make available times that you're available and generate an external scheduling URL that will be sent to participants that you're inviting to join the study. I will speak to in just a moment how you can send this external URL. We also support the ability to integrate out of the box with popular meeting services like Zoom and Microsoft Teams. And if you set up an integration with either of those tools, this creates really two sources of value. Number one, when a participant schedules a meeting or an interview with you, AHA Discovery will automatically create that interview record and a meeting link will be generated automatically through that integration. It'll be exposed on the screen that lives after this one to the participant and always accessible when the meeting is happening. The second source of value with an integration into the meeting service is after the meeting is finished, assuming that it was recorded, AHA Discovery will automatically fetch the meeting recording as well as the transcript for analysis by you and the team. And I'm going to show you in just a moment what I mean when I say analysis. Let's jump over to participants. So I showed you participants really at the global level. This is a global repository, and you can easily pull in participants from the global repository or create new ones at the individual study level, folks that are, again, relevant to the study that is planned. And from here, you can simply invite them to join a study by using this invite call to action. Clicking this invite button is going to trigger the first of an automated set of email macros that are associated with the research study and the interview with the participant. You can see these are fully editable and customizable. You can see they contain dynamic variables, the most important of which is the scheduling link. This is how the participant is going to be able to reach this screen and actually schedule time with you. And again, fully customizable. You can enable and disable any of these. I don't recommend disabling the invitation. The last point on study preparedness or study prep is the interview script that we're going to use as part of this study. Really drives two areas of value, I think. Number one, listing out the questions we intend to ask from interview to interview will ensure consistency with the team from conversation to conversation. So we're pulling down insights that we can compare and contrast against, a standard set of questions. Number two is, maybe you're not conducting an interview via video. Maybe you're in person. This is a great place to come and during the interview, add your notes live as you move through the conversation and easily pull these after the fact into the transcript screen that I'm going to show you in just a moment to take advantage of all the wonderful analytics capabilities in the same way. So let's jump into an interview. And here is all the interviews that are part of the GPS activity tracking study. I can open the interview drawer again, look at some meta information here, but let's dive into the transcript itself. This is where the magic of discovery really comes to life. So again, if you set up the Zoom integration or the Teams integration and you've recorded the meeting, we'll automatically pull in the video as well as the transcript, empowering you and the team to really conduct analysis at two levels here. You can start at the macro level by using the AI assistant drop down here. So we can generate a summary of the conversation like so. We use Discovery extensively internally at AHA. I can say these summaries are really high quality. And you can also pull out sentiment, and not just how were people feeling in the conversation, but specifically how were they feeling, positive, neutral, negative, about the particular topics that were covered in the discussion. So you can see from this interview, people felt great about GPS tracking and the importance of that capability. Device accuracy was a big concern. So you can really see the power of leveraging AI at the macro level when analyzing an interview. What about more, analysis at the micro level? Well, you can do that in a couple of ways. So if I highlight a snippet from the interview, I can take action in 5 ways right now. I can create a highlight. So let's assume there's a big block of text and I just want a summary. I can summarize that with AI. And by the way, each action I take from this spotlight menu here will create a highlight in the drawer on the right-hand side over here. I can also create a learning. This is an opportunity for me to manually title and define the body text around a learning. What did I learn from that statement? We can pull out quotes, which will automatically map to the individual from the interview that said the quote. And then going back to the interview script, I can also attach a snippet of text directly to the question that was answered. A lot of times when you ask a question in an interview, responses are long and meandering. It's rare that you get such a direct and succinct answer. Got it. Let's move to the next question. So here you can pinpoint exactly where in the conversation your question was answered. And then I think most powerfully here, the last action that you can take at a micro level is the ability to link an individual comment from an interview to a data record in AHA if you're using AHA roadmaps. And you can do that in 2 ways. You can actually create a new record from scratch. So let's imagine somebody says something and you think, we haven't thought about this at all. You can come in here and create an idea and add it to the backlog of ideas that you and the team are managing. Or you can come in or the second scenario would be somebody says something that's relevant to work that you're thinking about or planning that may or may not already be in the product backlog. You can link the insight or the piece of customer feedback directly to a feature, idea, and a couple other data records in AHA as well. You can see I just created a link to our route reviews feature from this screen. I can open that feature, learn a little bit more about what's planned. So you can start to see really here, I think, the power of moving directly from customer feedback, customer insight into product decision making, prioritization, road mapping, which is, a very real pain point for a lot of teams. So now I've shown you, the power of the analysis that you can run in Discovery at the interview level. Let's talk a little bit about what we can do today at the study level. I'm going to come over to the Study Insights report. Here is the space where the team can come to really aggregate insights from interview to interview that were part of the study. So I can come in here, add a summary of what we learned. This is a rich text editor. You can add images and such. And here you can pull in learnings from multiple conversations in a dynamic way, the highest or most impactful learnings from the conversations that you've had. You can also pull in customer quotes as well from folks that you've engaged with. And then last but not least, you can also link a study insights report with data records in AHA if you want to link back to sort of the summary finding space of a study in question. We're heavily investing in the ability to run analysis at the study level. In the next couple of months, we're going to be live with a number of new visualizations. Teams are going to be able to manage interview highlights within a study and also at the product level across studies in a list report, also in a whiteboard. And then we're investing a lot in the power of AI. So bringing the power of AI, the ability to run analysis using AI across interviews and across studies to get to the insight and mine the information that is most important to the team. So let's show you very quickly in closing, I've linked insight report as well as individual snippets from an interview to a feature in the roadmap. Let's come over to the feature board and show you what that looks like. I'm going to come over to the route reviews feature, open the research tab here, and you can see all of the insights that have been linked from different customer conversations into that feature. So again, emphasizing the point of empowering product, UX, and research teams to move directly from customer insight, customer feedback into product decision-making, prioritization, and road mapping. That is AHA Discovery. That's all I had for the demonstration. I will pass it back to Nikki.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we have one last thing for AHA here.
Yes. Yes. And so in closing, thanks, Nikki. Just want to leave you with, our team of product discovery experts is here to help you, whether you're just getting started on your own product discovery efforts, need some guidance, or you're looking for a tool to centralize interviews you're already doing, connect those insights with the product roadmap. Reach out to support@aha.io anytime with questions. You can join us for a personalized demo of discovery or start a free trial for 30 days as well. And so it's been wonderful to connect with you all. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, thank you. Awesome stuff. Love to see it. Lots of questions in the Q&A. It does wrap up the main portion of today's session, but we do want to make sure that you get the most value out of your time with us. So we're going to open up for questions. If there's something that you'd like to dig a little deeper into, or if you're curious how these strategies might apply to your own work, now would be the perfect time to ask. Make sure you drop your questions in the Q&A box so we can get to as many as possible. I'm going to stop sharing for right now. Lots of good questions coming through. We had the first one that sort of showed up was, what are some recommendations to get potentials or customers to meet with us for discovery? Often they're so busy, incentives with gifts don't always work, and many companies can't accept them. What are some suggestions? Will, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand many organizations have a policy against accepting gifts, but I personally take a different approach. In the end, folks, generally, people, we're all humans, like to be listened to and understood. We also like to feel as though our opinions have value. And so when approaching the market in general, instead of saying, I want, what we want to say is you have the opportunity to influence our product. I think there's a case of, I wouldn't call it platitudes because that's a little pejorative, but you certainly want to say, we're really seeking your counsel, your wisdom, your insight, your perspective of where the market's going, because what we want to do is build fantastic products that solve the problems that you're facing. So framing it that way, as you're giving them something, as opposed to you're demanding something, I think is a good start. The other thing as well is that I would always promise it's not going to take more than 30 minutes. Oftentimes it would go over, but that's also an opportunity as well. The other place which we highly recommend, if you're in the B2B world, where you can start sourcing these potential candidates for market discovery interviews, is at trade shows and conferences. But we've got to get out from behind the cubicle. We've got to get from behind the trade show booth, right? And we've got to go out and actually meet people. But my advice is always, unless it naturally reveals itself, try not to get involved in the deep discovery conversation at the trade show, because many times they sort of have quite a sales stigma about them, and you may have a special ribbon at the bottom of your badge that says vendor. That screams, I'm trying to sell you something. So what I'd rather you do is find a moment to make a connection with someone and say, I'm really interested to hear your perspective, your insights, your wisdom, whatever you want to phrase it as. Would it be all right if I followed up with you in a week's time or 2 weeks' time to secure that? That allows them to anchor on the idea of giving you 30 minutes or 45 minutes of their time, and they'll be more likely to do that rather than trying to push them into a 45-minute commitment in a cold call or a cold email. You'll probably get less results on that.
James, did you want to pitch in with anything, or do you think Will mostly summed it up there?
Will got it. Yeah.
I did have one that come through for both of you. It says for both Will and James, how many interviews and participants would you say should be a minimum in order to get a reasonable level of confidence in the data coming out of these sorts of studies? And I'm going to start with Will, so we'll go from this sort of overarching approach to more into a tool-driven approach. So Will, if you could start, and then we'll pass off to James.
So when we go out and do market discovery, it's actually a two-step process. When we have our discovery interviews, this is where we're looking to speak to a few and go deep. And our mission here is to discover things that we don't already know. But that's not the only part of discovery, because our second step is validation. Because the problem is, if I go out and talk to 5 people and all 5 of them claim to have a problem, I wouldn't build a product on the back of that, because I may have met the only 5 people in the world who have that problem. So we have to have validation techniques, which are quantitative research techniques, to validate what we've discovered is materially representative of the marketplace. Now, the how much, how many, well, if you go and look at, sample sizes, and there's formulas out there, it comes down to how accurate do you want the answer to be and how much confidence do you want to have the answer. And that will dictate the sample size. And there's tools out there. I think Qualtrics has a great one on their website to tell you what the sample size. Yeah, my experience, because we're pragmatic here at Pragmatic, I'm not asking you to do 300 of these. I am asking you to do double digits. So I'm thinking like 10, 20 is more than enough for initial discovery, but then we're going to go and validate and see if there's statistically significant representation of that problem in the marketplace via prototyping and painted door tests and a lot of other validation techniques that we talk about in our foundations course.
Yeah, to add to that, I just to build on that, I think the answer also depends. It depends on the size of the problem that you're solving for. And so I think one point that I didn't raise during the demonstration is that research doesn't stop, and Will just alluded to this, with customer interaction, customer interviews. It extends beyond that. And so if there's an opportunity to complement or supplement the interviews that you're running with adjacent research, like polls, like surveys, like user testing, it's variable in terms of kind of a raw number that's required at minimum. One call out, which I think speaks to another related question: can I store survey results alongside interviews? That I think is related to this as well. We just launched the ability to bring all of your research artifacts and documentation into Discovery as well, to store alongside the customer interviews and analyze that information together.
Great, great. Let's see. We had a couple questions come through about the tools. It says, what meeting tools is Discovery integrated with? Does it integrate with MS Teams and Teams recordings?
Yes, it integrates with Microsoft Teams out of the box. And if the end user moves through the integration setup process, the value that's captured there is twofold. When an invitee or a participant schedules time to meet with you, Discovery will automatically create the interview record and generate a meeting link for that discussion. Assuming that that discussion is recorded, AHA Discovery will automatically fetch the interview recording as well as the transcript to pull it into that interview transcript screen that I demoed for you and the team.
We also had Brian asked, let's say one of your interviews has uncovered, say, XYG GPS Inc. is one of their potential considerations. Is there a way to show them as the next best option for a potential product? If so, where would this competition and market data get pulled from?
Can you elaborate that on Brian? That question, is there a way to show them as the next best? I'm not sure I understand the question, Nikki.
Yeah, let's Brian, if you want to post some additional thoughts in the chat, some clarifying questions there. Another one that came through was, is there a way, I think you just answered this one, a way to incorporate survey results.
Yeah, I just answered
and
that.
then how would you convince the engineering team to work with AHA tool?
Well, AHA Develop is our purpose-built development tool for engineering teams. And I think the biggest benefit, particularly if the product management team is leveraging AHA roadmaps for all their road mapping needs and product prioritization needs, it very tightly integrates those tools together. And so super easy to use. AHA Develop supports extensions, so you can really customize that tool intimately with how the team wants to work. I can drop a link to learn more about AHA Develop.
Great. Let's see. Um, we got a lot of questions coming in, so pardon me as I try to read through some of these and make sure that we can get all of these answered for everybody. Let's see. We have does AHA work with Jira or is it a replacement? That's a probably quicker answer.
Yeah, so the answer to that question is twofold. AHA Develop is a Jira alternative, so it's a replacement for Jira. AHA Roadmaps, our strategy and road mapping tool, integrates tightly with Jira. So the product team can get organized around their product feature work, epics work, and then when they're aligned on priority and ready, they can push that work into Jira seamlessly.
Great. Should this one's probably open for both of you? Should we be revalidating our discovery insights more frequently now, given the current rate of innovation and transformation amongst our target markets? Will, do you want to start?
Yeah, Jeremy, I think you might have answered your own question there. Is if it indeed is dynamically changing that, then certainly we want to increase our frequency. But keep in mind, in discovery, what we're trying to do is surface the problem. And so if we feel that a particular industry or segment problems are changing frequently, then we should certainly, increase the frequency of our discovery. But it's not about identifying the how, right? That's when we bring our designers and our developers and our prototyping and all that sort of stuff in. For discovery, we're just trying to surface problems. And so the frequency will be a function of how dynamic those problems are. Hopefully that helps.
James, did you want to chime in with anything else?
No, I think we'll nail that one.
All right, let's see here. We also have how can you use AI to analyze your meeting and summarize results and the key insights or problem statements? That is from Richard.
Well, hopefully you saw a lot of that shine through in the demonstration that I just gave. And so couple of ways to do that. One is the ability to leverage our AI assistant to run macro analysis of an interview end to end, looking at the conversation as a whole. End users can also run more micro level analysis of an interview transcript, pull out highlights that they feel are relevant, customer quotes, learnings. They can also link insights directly to AHA records in their backlog. And then they can also bubble all of that up and visualize that at the study level so that you can see insights and highlights from interview to interview in one place.
Great. Now, Will, I think you touched on this a little bit already, but Chris had, a little bit more in-depth question. In a B2B world, especially when your product or service has physical components, how can you increase the number of participants willing to give feedback on the overall system, especially installation, maintenance, or other things that might require physical manipulation? So I think you touched slightly on B2B, but did you want to expand at all?
Carissa, maybe you could expand on this. Are you saying that because the second piece of discovery, which we talk about, is not only interview skills, but also observational skills as well, particularly when it comes to physical products. Many times we want to go and watch how they're doing their job. The invitation for them to participate in this is the same as I said before, in that we're trying to appeal to their vanity in some respects. So we want them to feel as though we really, and we truly do, really value their input. But when it comes to physical products, like I was working with a company a few months ago and they make valves for gas stations and there's a sensor on there, and it was quite difficult to change this sensor. And so they actually sent people out to observe and see what was happening and why it was difficult. So that is certainly more time intensive. We can't do a transcript of that. We've actually got to go out and, we see techniques where videos are taken and things like that. But the underpinning call to why they would want to participate in that is, I'm going to make your life easier. I want to understand your problems so I can solve your problems better and your life's going to be easier. Who wouldn't want to give some time up for that? But make it very, very clear. And I think this is perhaps the fine skill. I am not trying to sell you anything. That's probably the most important thing in securing these discovery interviews, is to make it absolutely clear you're not in a sales mode. That's not your goal. Because the moment they feel that, then all bets are off and it's really hard to secure anything.
We had one question that got answered, but we'd like James to sort of touch on this a little bit live. What are the pros and cons to AHA Discovery versus Dovetail? Discovery looks impressive, but our org already uses Dovetail because it didn't exist when we needed it. Discovery didn't exist when we needed it, and we need significant value propositions to convince leadership to look at a different tool.
I think the biggest key differentiator that is clearly resonating with the market today is the fact that AHA Discovery empowers teams to seamlessly link directly customer feedback and insights with their product backlog, their product roadmap, and really support product teams in their prioritization and decision making. Moving, seamlessly and directly from customer insight into product backlog. I don't think is something that any alternatives in the market offer in the same way that we do. So that's the way I would answer that question.
Great. All right, we've got a couple other questions, but I know the AHA team is frantically at work and typing some of these in the background as well. One question came through: what about discovery in an enterprise environment where an access to customer is curated by the sales or service team in the field?
Yeah, this is a good point, and it's relevant to the participant screen that I showed you. We are going to be working hard to roll out multiple CRM integrations in the near term, the first of which is going to be Salesforce, because that's really going to allow sales support teams to stay that are in that system traditionally day to day to stay in sync with who is fair game for the product team or research team to reach out to, and the team can stay in sync and on top of who's reaching out to who when was the last time we reached out to them, to avoid that problem of just inundating with the same research requests.
Christine had a question: in some industries, aero, energy, and high tech, engineering requirements need to be formatted using sysml or sysml2. Is there a way to get at requirements in that format from this tool? That's all the way at the bottom if you want to take a peek. There's some tech jargon in there that I'm not as familiar with.
I'll probably have to take that back to the engineering team, Nikki, to be honest.
All right. We'll make sure that we get Christine's information over to you if you want to respond via
Yeah,
email.
that'd be great.
Let's see. Do you have any suggestions for disseminating and promoting discovery insights and research relating to market problems across large organizations that are not product-led, i.e., building and selling tech products is not yet the main thing we do? That's from Jeremy Brown.
So as I understand here, how do we share what we've discovered? Well, it's no different than how we share anything else that we discover. I think the first thing is, when we're leading any kind of change initiative, I'm a big fan of the Kotter 8-step change model. And the first thing is setting up why people should pay attention. If you think about it, as product managers, we also have a product, and our product is the ability to discover and validate market problems. So now putting that in the context of why anyone else in the organization should care about that is probably the first problem we need to crack. What is the value of going out to the marketplace and discovering natively from the market what their problems actually are, and then followed up with validating it? That's how I'd position it. I mean, it's always, people are always wanting to know the answer to the question, what's in it for me? So the first thing you need to do, instead of just demanding people pitch up to a meeting, is explain to them why they would be interested in coming to that meeting. What value are they going to get from that meeting? As I read recently, we live in a world where content is infinite and attention is finite. So you are competing for attention with your content, no matter what it is and whatever venue you're talking about. So beginning with why someone would care is probably the first place to start with.
I know that we're coming up on time, so I think we've got maybe a couple of minutes to answer one or two more. We have a question that came in from Kaylin. We have B2B products with different personas coming to play. There are teams who set up the product to suit their operations, and then there are users who are actually using our products. From a product discovery perspective, how important is it to include the different personas around our product? As PMs, who all should we focus on for the discovery?
So I
Great.
can go
Sorry.
ahead, Will.
Well,
Uh,
great question. When it comes to personas, and for those who don't use personas, incredibly powerful tool is that fact-based archetypical representation of anyone involved in the purchase of a product, what we call a buyer persona, and anyone involved in the using of a product we call the user persona. In the B2C world, many times we're that same person. I'm the buyer of the pickup truck and the user of the pickup truck. In the B2B world, never, or almost never, are they the same person. And so all of their requirements and problems are valid. Sometimes we build things for the buyer persona. Even though we may know it never gets used by a user persona, it's necessary to close the deal. So that's a completely legitimate requirement that we can incorporate. But I encourage you to expand your audio, or rather your cast of personas. There's not just a economic buyer persona, the person whose budget it comes from. There's the technical buyer persona, the functional buyer persona, the compliance buyer persona. On the using side, there's not just the everyday user persona. There's the expert persona. There's the sysadmin persona. So we have to just make sure we've got that full cast described, and then understand, because we live in the world of finite money and finite resources, who are the most valuable that we should pay attention to, and that is a judgment call that we have to make. And there's weighted scorecards and tools you can use to do that, but that's what I encourage you to do, is expand your cast of personas.
Yeah, and one of the things, I'm really glad you asked this question because I didn't touch on it in the demonstration, but one of the things that we're actively investing in now is the ability to actually aggregate a lot of the insights that you're deriving from customer conversations and map those directly to personas. So AHA roadmaps, which I showed you briefly at the end when we linked all those insights into the feature directly, also supports the ability at the strategic level to define the various persona types that Will mentioned there. And so soon there's going to be the ability to actually hook in directly insights to further substantiate their preferences, priorities, etc.
Awesome stuff. We have just a quick wrap up here, so I want to just sort of bring us up to the end of today's session. We hope that you're walking away with practical strategies to improve your discovery process and more confidence in how you gather and act on those customer insights. So a huge thank you to our speakers, Will and James, for sharing their expertise. If today's session sparked any sort of ideas, we encourage you to keep the conversation going, whether it's with your team or it's with us. At Pragmatic, we're passionate about helping product professionals like you move from reactive to strategic, and discovery is a big part of that journey. If you've taken one of our courses, be sure to check out the Pragmatic Alumni Community. It's a space created exclusively for our alumni to connect, ask questions, and share real-world experiences. Your next great product insight might just come from a conversation there. And if you haven't taken any of our courses yet, but would like to, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We can drop our link in the chat here. We're so excited to have you all here with us today. Please make sure that you keep an eye on your inbox. We're going to be sending a follow-up with the recording, some key takeaways, some next steps. And we can't wait to see you again. So thanks everybody for coming out, and we appreciate it.